The Grand Peace Conference on planet Tabar was the most important event in the galaxy. Leaders from more than 50 alien worlds came together to end old wars, make new friends, and build a future of peace. Ships of every shape and color floated. Above Tabar, on the ground, bright flags waved in the soft wind. The air was full of hope. The conference was hosted by the Earth Space Union, and the main speaker from Earth was Commander Rehan. He was not a soldier anymore. He was a peace officer now, working to bring different worlds together. Commander Rehan stood tall in his white and blue uniform. His face was calm, but his mind was busy. This conference had taken months of planning. Many aliens still did not trust humans. Some believed humans were too emotional, too quick to fight. Rehan wanted to prove them wrong. One guest stood out among the many alien leaders. She was tall, elegant, and quiet. Her name was Lura, and she came from the far world of Viren. Her skin was smooth and silver blue. Her eyes were large and soft, filled with light. She wore a long robe that shimmered like water. No one knew much about her people, the Virini, except that they were peaceful, wise, and kept to themselves. Lura didn't speak much during the early days of the conference. She listened, watched, and sometimes asked short questions in a soft voice. But when she did speak, the room always became silent. Her words had weight. Her presence felt important. By the last day of the conference, great progress had been made. 2 enemy planets had agreed to sign peace papers. Trade routes were opened. A galaxy-wide science exchange program was announced. Everyone was smiling. Then came the final ceremony. Each major guest would receive a gift in honor of their help. Some asked for rare minerals. Others asked for trade rights, space tech, or land on new planets. When it was Lura's turn, she stepped forward slowly. Everyone expected her to ask for something small, maybe a crystal, or access to Earth's music library, something peaceful. Commander Rehan spoke clearly. Lady Lura of Viren, you have helped bring peace to old enemies. What do you ask in return? Lura looked at him, then slowly turned her eyes to the room full of alien leaders. Her voice was calm and clear. I want a human, she said. Silence. No one moved. No one blinked. The room froze. Commander Rehan looked confused. I beg your pardon? Lura nodded. One human. That is all I ask. I wish to take one with me, alive and willing. I ask for no other reward. There was whispering now. Some aliens looked alarmed, others curious, a few looked angry. Rehan tried to stay calm. May I ask why? Lura replied, I have studied many species. I have listened to many voices, but the human voice is different. You feel deeply, you create, you destroy, you love, and you forgive. Your emotions are wild but honest. I wish to understand that. The whispers grew louder. Some alien leaders asked, do you want a human for research? Is this a trap? Is it safe? Lura shook her head. I do not want to harm. I do not want to study. I wish for company, a friend. Someone I can learn from and who can learn from me. A small green alien stood up and said, that is not normal. Who asks for a person as a gift? Lura did not react. I do not want a slave. I want a willing soul. That is all. The room grew tense. Commander Rehan stepped aside and asked to speak to Earth's council through a private channel. Within minutes, the news spread. Earth's leaders were shocked. So were the people. Some called Lura strange. Some called her dangerous. Others called her brave. Back on Tabar, the alien leaders could not agree. Some said it was a simple request. Others feared it might start a chain of problems. What if other species asked for humans too? What if humans began to be seen as gifts? But Lura remained calm. She waited patiently. She said she would only accept if one human stepped forward freely. Commander Rehan returned to the main hall. His voice was serious. The council has decided. No human will be given against their will. But if a human volunteers, we will allow it. With care, of course. Now, everyone waited. Would anyone say yes? At first, no one moved. Then, a quiet voice spoke from the back of the hall. I'll go, said a young man with simple clothes and soft eyes. His name was Moran. He was not a hero, not a captain. not a scientist. He worked as a technician on the Tabar station, fixing machines and cleaning old wires. People turned to look at him. Some were surprised, some were unsure. Miran walked forward slowly. I believe in trust. I believe in peace. If she wants to learn from a human, I am ready. Lura smiled for the first time. You are the one, she said softly. Thank you, Commander. Rand looked at Miran. Are you sure? This could be a long journey, a strange one. Miran nodded. I've lived a quiet life. Maybe this is my chance to help in a big way. And so, the decision was made. Lura would leave with Miran, not as her property, not as a test subject, but as a guest. The galaxy watched in silence as the tall silver ship rose from Tabar's surface. It moved gently into the sky, carrying an alien woman and a human mantis souls from very different worlds, beginning a strange and beautiful journey. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone remembered the day the alien woman asked for only one thing, a human, and the world was never the same again. The news of Lura's request spread across the galaxy like fire and dry grass, everywhere on planets, space stations, and even asteroid colonies. People were talking about one thing, the alien woman who asked for a human. Some were confused, some were angry, others were simply curious. On Earth, news channels showed pictures of Lura and Miran together. People sent messages asking, who is Miran, and why did he agree? His name was now known on hundreds of worlds in space. Cafes and on digital forums, debates began. Is this safe? Can we trust the alien woman? Why would a human volunteer? But Miran didn't care about fame. He had never liked big crowds or loud speeches, even on the Tabar station. He had always stayed in the background, quiet, helpful, and kind. That was just who he was. Inside Lura's ship, the journey had already begun. The ship was not like anything Miran had ever seen. It didn't feel like metal. Its walls were soft and warm. They changed colors like the sky at sunset. The ship had no sharp corners. Everything was smooth, calm, and peaceful. It was a living ship, a type of technology the Verini had mastered. The ship hummed gently, as if it was breathing. Miran looked around with wide eyes. This place feels alive. Lura smiled. It is. It listens. It learns. Just like you and me. She guided him to a round room with soft seats that grew. From the floor, a large screen showed stars floating by. Miran sat down. Where are we going? Lura replied, to my home. The world of Varian. It is far, but this ship will take us there in only 7 days. The journey began in silence. Lura watched the stars. Miran looked at her, trying to understand why she had chosen him. Finally, he asked, why do you really want a human? You could ask for anything, riches, ships, power. Lura turned her head slowly. I wanted something more rare, something I cannot find on any planet or buy in any market. I wanted connection. Miran frowned gently. You don't have that with your own people? She paused. Her voice became softer. We have peace. We have wisdom. But we lost something long ago. We lost deep feeling. We speak with care, but not with heart. We forgot how to laugh without reason, how to cry from joy. I've watched humans, and you still have those things. Miran didn't know what to say. I don't want to take, she added. I want to understand, and I hope you will understand me too. They sat in silence again, but it wasn't cold. It felt calm, like Taman's meeting halfway, back on Earth. The Council of Worlds held a private meeting. The hall was large, with chairs shaped like planets and a giant screen showing the stars. Commander Ren stood before the others. Some alien leaders looked worried. A red-skinned alien spoke. You should not have allowed it. Giving away a human even if he agreed is dangerous. Ren stayed calm. He was not given. He chose. Another alien with 6 eyes said, this might start a new trend. What if other species asked for humans as gifts? A small, bird-like alien added, what if something happens to him? Will humans blame the Verini? Rehan raised his hand. Lura is peaceful. Her people have never started a war. We have to believe in peace. We have to take chances. Otherwise, we remain afraid forever." There was silence, then a few heads nodded. Some still looked unsure, but no one had a better idea. Meanwhile, inside the ship, Miran explored. There were no buttons, no screens, no maps. He simply touched the wall and thought about what he wanted. The ship responded. He found a garden filled with plants that glowed. Their petals moved slowly, like they were breathing. He found a music room where soft sounds floated in the air like gentle waves. He found a window where he could see all of space stars, colors, comets, and even a gas giant spinning far away. Every room felt like it was made for peace. One evening, Lura invited him to the center hall. The lights were dim, and soft blue energy floated in the air. She stood near a round table and said, "This is the circle of trust. In my culture, when two people sit here, they speak honestly. No masks, no lies." Miran nodded and sat. Lura sat across from him. "What do you fear, Miran?" He took a deep breath. "That I'll say or do the wrong thing. That I won't be useful. That this will all go wrong." She nodded. "And what do you hope?" He smiled a little. "That I'll learn something new. That I'll help. That I'll grow." Lura closed her eyes for a moment. "Then we begin." From that day, they spent more time together. They shared stories. Miran told her about rain, about street food, about children playing on dusty roads. Lura told him about the skies of Viren, where the clouds shimmered like silk and lakes sang. When the wind passed, Miran laughed. "That sounds like a dream," Lura replied. "Your world sounds like a poem." They both smiled. Far away, in the dark corners of the galaxy, others were watching. Not all beings wanted peace. Not all liked humans making strong bonds with other species. A silent figure in a dark ship watched a screen showing Lura's ship flying through space. "Interesting," the figure whispered. "An alien woman wants a human. Let's see where that leads." But for now, Miran and Lura were unaware. They had just started a journey that would change not only themselves, but perhaps many more lives across the stars. As the ship sailed quietly through space, one question echoed in every corner of the galaxy. Why would an alien want a human? Not for power, not for science, but for something deeper. The answer was still a mystery, but it was a mystery worth chasing. The silver ship moved smoothly through space, glowing softly under the light of distant stars. Inside, Miran sat by a window, watching galaxies drift by. He had left behind everything familiar: his home, his work, his planet's hand now traveled. With Lura, the mysterious woman from Viren. Sometimes, he still couldn't believe it. Just a few days ago, he was fixing machines and changing filters on the Tabar station. He had never imagined his name would be known across the stars. He had never expected to leave Earth, let alone become part of something so strange and important. But when Lura had asked for a human, something inside Miran had responded. It wasn't fame he wanted. It wasn't adventure. It was meaning, something deeper. He didn't want to live a small life forever. He wanted to be useful in a new way. And so, he said yes. Back on Tabar, the peace conference was over, but the conversations hadn't stopped. Diplomats and scientists were still talking about Lura's request. Why a human? What did she really want? Many were still unsure. Some thought she had a hidden reason. Others believed she was truly sincere. Commander Wren was calm as usual. He had spoken with Miran before the departure. "You don't have to do this," Wren had said. "No one will blame you if you change your mind." Miran had looked at him and replied simply, "Sometimes we wait our whole lives to be part of something that matters. I think this is my moment." Wren had nodded with respect. "Then go, and go with peace." Now, the Council of Earth had opened a file on the mission. They would track Lura's ship. They would send peaceful messages. But they would not interfere. This was not a mission of control. It was a journey of trust. On board the ship, the days passed in quiet beauty. Lura showed Miran how the ship worked. There were no engines, no fuel tanks, no buttons. The ship moved using light, energy, and the deep connection of Viren technology. It understood thoughts. It responded to feelings. One morning, Miran woke to the soft sound of singing. It wasn't from Lura, it was from the ship itself. He followed the sound to a glowing hallway, where the walls shifted color gently like waves on a beach. Lura was already there, sitting with her legs crossed, eyes closed. The ship sings when it feels calm, she said. It senses harmony. Miran smiled. Then it must like me. Lura opened her eyes and looked at him. Yes, it does. They began spending more time together, not as host and guest, but as equals. They shared stories every evening. Miran talked about his mother, who used to make fried bread with honey. He told her about the streets of his city, the laughter of children, and how he liked watching old movies late at night. Lura shared stories of her home floating gardens, mirror lakes, and trees that whispered in the wind. She spoke of her people's past, of how they once felt deeply, but slowly lost emotion in their search for perfect peace. We removed sadness, she said, but with it, we lost joy too. Miran thought for a moment. Maybe feelings are like colors. You can't pick only the good ones. You need the whole picture to make it real. Lura's eyes softened. That is why I chose a human. One evening, Miran asked the question that had been on his mind since the beginning. Why me? Out of all the people on Tabar, why did you think I was the one? Lura paused. Then she stood up and touched the wall. A soft screen appeared, showing a moment from the peace conference. It was a recording. Miran saw himself sitting quietly in the corner, helping a technician fix a power cable that had broken during the speech. No one had noticed. He hadn't been trying to be seen. You were kind when no one was watching. Lura said, you helped when no one asked. That is rare. Miran looked away, shy. It wasn't a big deal. It was, she said, because it was honest. Miran didn't know what to say. Lura continued, I didn't want someone famous. I didn't want a hero. I wanted someone real, someone with a good heart. For a long moment, they sat in silence, but it was not empty. It was full of meaning. As the ship moved closer to Varian space, they prepared for arrival. The sky outside turned soft gold. Nebulas danced in the distance like floating flowers. Miran asked, what will your people think of me? They will be surprised, Lura said. They have never seen a human in person. Some will welcome you. Some may fear. But if you speak kindly, they will listen. I'll try, he said. You won't be alone, she added. I will be with you. That made him feel better. He began learning Varini customs. He learned how to bow gently, how to greet with open hands, and how to show respect through silence. Lura was a patient teacher. One day, while practicing a greeting, he accidentally said a word that meant banana fish. Lura laughed softly. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. You laughed? He said with a big smile. I did, she replied, still smiling. It felt warm. Miran chuckled. That's a good feeling. Keep it, and she did. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy. In a far system, a shadowy group of beings watched Lura's ship. They were called the Dralin, and they did not like the idea of peace between humans and Varini. They grow close, said a voice in the dark. They trust too easily. Another replied, we must watch, and if needed, stop it. But they stayed hidden for now. On the seventh day, the ship began to slow. The stars outside changed. A large blue-green planet came into view. Viren. It was beautiful. It had wide oceans, glowing forests, and rings of soft color. Small moons floated around it like pearls. Miran stood at the window in awe. It's the most beautiful planet I've ever seen. Lura looked at him and said, welcome to my world. The ship entered the atmosphere without sound. It glided gently over lakes and trees, and finally came to rest near a crystal tower surrounded by gardens. This is the house of listening, Lura said. It is where peace lives. Miran took a deep breath. His heart beat faster. This was a new world, a new people, a new life, and it had only just begun. As the silver ship landed gently on the soft green field, Miran looked out the window with wide eyes. Before him stood the world of Varian, a planet unlike anything he had ever seen. The sky was light purple, with two suns glowing high above. Floating islands drifted slowly in the air, covered with colorful plants. The trees were tall and silver, their leaves changing colors with the wind. A lake nearby shone like glass, and birds with bright wings flew in gentle circles. Beside the ship stood a tall crystal tower. Its surface sparkled in the sunlight, and around it were peaceful gardens filled with round stones and glowing flowers. Paths of white sand led through the gardens, inviting and calm. Laura stood beside Miran. "This is the house of listening," she said. "It is where we welcome new thoughts. It is where peace is grown." Miran nodded slowly. "It's more beautiful than I imagined. You are the first human to step here," Laura said softly. "This moment is now part of our history." As the ship's door opened, a soft wind touched Miran's face. It smelled fresh, like fruit and flowers. He took a deep breath and stepped out. A group of Verini stood nearby. They were graceful, like Laura, with silver blue skin and soft eyes. Their robes flowed like water, and they moved quietly, without rush. An elder stepped forward. He had light silver hair and a long staff made of crystal. "Welcome, human," he said in a calm voice. "I am Cyril, keeper of the house." Miran bowed as Laura had taught him slowly, with open hands. "Thank you for receiving me." Cyril looked at Laura. "You bring a guest of great meaning. You bring change. I bring hope." Laura replied. Inside the house of listening, everything felt peaceful. There were no sharp corners. The walls curved gently. The rooms were filled with soft light coming from glowing stones. Water flowed through narrow streams across the floor, making quiet music. Miran was shown to a resting room. The bed was like a soft cloud, and a tree grew in the corner, its leaves humming a low, calming tune. Later, Laura took him to a wide hall with cushions on the floor. A meal was served around fruits, soft breads, and colorful drinks that tasted like cool rain. Everything was natural and light. Laura sat beside him and said, "Tomorrow, you will meet the circle of elders. They guide our people. They will want to understand why you are here." Miran felt nervous. What if they don't accept me? They will listen. That is their way. Speak truly, and they will hear your heart. The next day, the circle gathered in a round chamber open to the sky. 12 elders sat in silence, their hands resting gently on their knees. Miran stood in the center, with Laura by his side. Cyril spoke first. "Laura of Virin, you have made an unusual request. You asked for a human not for study, not for service, but for connection. This is something we have not seen before." Laura nodded. "I saw a good heart. I saw something we had lost." Another elder asked, "And you, Miran of Earth, why did you come?" Miran took a deep breath. "I came because I believe peace needs more than words. It needs trust. I came to learn, and I came to share." A gentle murmur moved through the elders. One asked, "Are you not afraid?" "Sometimes," Miran said, "but learning is always a little scary. That's what makes it special." Another elder, a quiet woman with eyes like blue crystals, asked, "What will you give us?" Miran replied, "My time, my thoughts, my heart." There was silence again. Then Cyril smiled. "Then stay, learn, be known." And so, Miran became part of the house. Each day brought something new. He walked the gardens with Laura, learning the names of every tree and flower. Some flowers opened only when sung to. Some trees whispered dreams at night. He visited the Hall of Moments, where memories from Virin were stored as floating lights. He touched one and saw a memory to children flying kites in a pink sky. He listened to stories told by the elders, stories of old wars and long journeys, of stars being born and songs that healed hearts. In return, he shared Earth stories of mountains and rivers, of kindness and courage, of music and dreams. The Verini listened closely. They asked questions about laughter, about tears, about why humans painted pictures or danced when they were alone. One day, a young Verini child asked him, "Why do humans sing?" Miran smiled. "Because sometimes a heart is too full to just speak." The child blinked, then smiled back. "That's a good reason." As days passed, Laura and Miran grew closer. They sat often in the quiet garden, speaking little but understanding much. Miran once said, I used to feel small, like I didn't matter. But now, I feel seen, Lura replied, and I, who saw so much, now feel. They watched the moons rise together. They walked by the singing lakes. They laughed softly at strange dreams. Something gentle was growing between them. Not fast, not loud, but strong and real. But not all Verini were pleased. In a tall tower beyond the garden, a small group watched Miran closely. They believed feelings made people weak, that emotion had caused pain in the past. One whispered, "This human changes things." Another replied, "Change is not always good." They did not act yet, but their eyes stayed sharp, and their minds full of worry. One afternoon, Lura showed Miran a place called the Sky Platform. It was high above the land, floating gently among the clouds. They stood at the edge, watching the sky turn gold. Lura said, "This was once used by dreamers. They would come here to speak their wishes." Miran looked at her. What did they wish for? She turned to him. To feel, to love, to be understood. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Those are good wishes. I think I'll make them too." She smiled. "Perhaps we already have." As the wind passed through their hair and the sky turned to stars, Miran knew that his journey had truly begun, not just across space, but into something deeper. And far below, on the surface of Viren, the flowers began to bloom a little brighter, as if the world itself could feel the change. The skies of Viren turned soft gold as the twin suns began to set. High above the ground, on a floating platform called the Sky Nest, Miran stood quietly beside Lura. A calm wind moved through the silver trees. Below them, glowing lakes reflected the light like mirrors. Miran had been on Viren for many days now. Each day felt like a dream, but not the kind that fades. It was a dream that grew stronger with every sunrise. He had walked through peaceful gardens, listened to the songs of the lakes, and shared stories that made the Verini smile with wonder. Still, there was something he didn't understand. Lura herself. She was kind, wise, and calm. She showed him beauty in simple things. But deep inside her, Miran sensed something else, a sadness, like a quiet shadow. He looked at her now and said softly, "Lura, may I ask you something?" She turned toward him. "Of course, you've given me so much, this world, your time, your trust, but I feel like you're still hiding something you don't say." Lura was silent. The wind moved gently around them. Her silver blue eyes looked toward the sky. "I will tell you," she said after a moment, "because you deserve to know." She walked to the edge of the platform and spoke slowly. "A long time ago, our people felt everything deeply: joy, sorrow, love, pain. But with emotion came conflict. People cried too much. Some grew angry easily. There were disagreements, sadness, even wars." Miran listened closely. "So the Verini chose a different path," Lura continued. "Our scientists changed the way we think. They found a way to quiet the heart, to remove strong emotions. We kept peace, but we lost something important." She looked at Miran now, and her voice grew softer. "We lost the feeling of being alive." Miran's eyes widened. "You can't feel emotions. We can feel," Lura replied, "but not in the way humans do. Not deeply, not fully. That is why I wanted a human to understand what we have forgotten." Miran stood still. Her words felt heavy but honest. "But you laugh now," he said. "You smile. I've seen you feel things." Lura nodded slowly. "Because of you, being near you, it is like my heart is learning again." Miran stepped closer. "Why me?" "You don't pretend," she said. "You speak with truth. You feel without fear. You help without wanting reward. That is rare, even on your own world." Miran looked down for a moment, unsure what to say. Then he looked up again and smiled. Gently, "Maybe we're both learning from each other." Lura smiled back. "Yes, we are." In the days that followed, things began to change. Miran noticed it first in the gardens. The flowers began to bloom in new colors the Verini had not seen in generations. The lakes began to hum in new tones, brighter and fuller. Even some of the people, elders and children alike, began to show signs of feeling more deeply. They laughed more. They asked curious questions. They wanted to know about stories, songs, and love. Something was waking up. One evening, a young Varini girl named Irina ran up to Miran. She held a drawing in her hands. "I made this," she said. Miran took the paper. It showed him and Lura, standing by the lake, with stars above them. "It's beautiful," he said. My heart felt happy. "So I drew." Irina smiled. "I didn't know I could feel that way." Lura watched from a distance. Her eyes glowed gently, not with light but with quiet wonder. But not everyone was happy with these changes. In a far chamber of the House of Listening, a group of Varini elders sat in silence. They wore dark blue robes and spoke in low voices. One said, "The human brings emotion." Another added, "Emotion brings danger." A third nodded, "We must protect our peace." This group was known as the Still Ones. They believed that emotion would destroy their society again. They had spent years keeping feelings controlled. Now, with Miran's presence, everything was changing. "We must act," the first elder said. "But how?" the second asked. "He has done no harm." "Not yet," the third replied. "But change has already begun." They decided to watch Miran closely and, if needed, stop him. Back in the garden, Miran and Lura sat by the singing lake. The moonlight touched the water, and tiny lights danced on its surface. Miran picked up a flat stone and skipped it across the lake. "I used to do this as a child," he said. Lura watched the ripples. "Each ripple touches another. That is what you are doing here." Miran looked at her. "Do you think your people are ready for emotions again?" "Some are," she said. "Some are afraid. But fear is part of feeling, too." He nodded slowly. "I used to be afraid of not being important. Now I just hope I don't break anything." "You are not breaking," Lura said softly. "You are helping us grow." They looked at each other. For a long moment, nothing was said but much was understood. Later that night, Lura stood alone in the Hall of Memory. She touched a crystal on the wall, and a floating light appeared. It showed her as a child, standing beside her parents, smiling. That smile had faded over the years. She had been chosen as a voice of peace, trained to speak carefully, to never let her emotions lead. But now, because of one simple human, she felt something stirring inside her, a spark, a song, a sense of warmth. "Thank you," she whispered. Into the air. Far away, the drow in a secretive race that disliked peace watched Lura and Miran from hidden ships. "They grow close," one drow said. "Too close," another replied. "We must prepare." They began to move, silent and unseen. As the next morning came, Miran woke with a calm heart. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, painting the sky with soft orange and pink. He stood by the window and whispered, "This world feels like home." Now, Lura joined him. "And you have helped it feel alive again." He smiled. "What happens next?" "We continue," she said, "together." And in that moment, nothing else mattered, not fear, not the unknown, not the shadows watching from far away, only the journey of two beings from two worlds, joined by trust, learning to feel again step by step, heart to heart. The morning sun of Viren cast soft light across the crystal towers and floating gardens. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh water. Yet, beneath this peaceful beauty, tension quietly grew. Miran and Lura walked slowly through the halls of the House of Listening. Their hands almost brushed, but they didn't hold them yet. The weight of what was to come hung between them. Today, Miran would face the circle of elders again, not just to speak, but to be tested. Lura had explained the test was not to judge him as a stranger, but to see if he could be trusted as part of their people. As they approached the round chamber, Miran's heart beat faster. The circle of elders sat quietly, their silver robes flowing like water. Cyril, the keeper, spoke first. "Miran of Earth," he said calmly, "today you will face the trial of trust. It is a test of your heart and your choices." Miran nodded. "I am ready." Cyril gestured to a glowing circle in the center of the room. The circle shimmered with light and energy. "Step inside." Miran took a deep breath and stepped into the circle. The light wrapped around him gently. Then the room shifted. Suddenly, Miran found himself alone in a vast black space. Stars twinkled far away. Before him stood a figure, a glowing being without clear form. A voice echoed softly, "Miran, you must choose." Two paths appeared. On one, a stranger floated in danger. On the other, a path to safety for yourself. You must decide, save yourself or save the stranger. The voice said. Miran looked around. The stranger's eyes met his. They showed hope and fear. He thought about his family, his friends, his own life. But then he remembered Lura's words, "Trust is built by kindness." Without hesitation, Miran stepped toward the stranger. The black space faded. Miran found himself back in the chamber. The elders watched silently. Cyril smiled gently. "You chose kindness. You did not seek your own safety alone. This is the way of trust." Miran felt relief and pride. "Thank you." The elders nodded. Another elder spoke. "Trust is not easy. It must be earned through choices, not words alone." After the trial, Miran felt different. Not because of the test, but because of what it meant. Lura met him outside the chamber. "You have passed. Was it just a test?" Miran asked. "No," she said. "It was a lesson, to show that your heart is true." He smiled. "I want to keep learning." Days passed. Miran became part of Verini life. He helped in the gardens, learned their songs, and shared stories. The people began to trust him. Children followed him, asking questions. Elders smiled when he spoke. One morning, Irina, the young girl who had drawn him before, came with another picture. This time, it showed a circle of different beings, Verini, humans, and others holding hands. "Is this what you want?" she asked. Miran nodded. "Yes, a circle of friends." Lura watched from a distance, pride shining in her eyes. But the still ones were watching. They met in secret. "The human spreads feeling," one said. "This will bring chaos." Another warned, "We must act." The leader said. They planned to challenge Miran and Lura to prove that emotion could harm. Meanwhile, Miran and Lura prepared for the next council meeting. It would decide the future of humans on Varian. Miran was nervous, but Lura was steady. "We face this together," she said. The meeting began in the Great Hall. Representatives from all Verini clans sat in silence. Cyril spoke. "We honor Miran's courage, but some fear change." A member of the Still One stood. "We ask, can humans be trusted? Will their feelings bring peace or destruction?" Miran stood. His voice was clear. "Feelings can hurt, yes, but they also heal. They build bonds. I am here to learn, not to harm." The room was silent. Then something unexpected happened. One elder rose slowly. "I was once afraid," she said, "but I see now that feeling is life. I support Miran." Others nodded. The room filled with soft murmurs. Lura smiled. "This is the true power of trust." Outside the hall, the drowned watched the news with anger. "They grow stronger," their leader said. "We must stop them before it is too late." But for now, the people of Varian had chosen trust, and Miran's journey had shown that even in a galaxy full of fear, kindness could open doors. The great hall on Varian was filled with light from the twin suns. The council meeting had just ended, and the air was thick with hope and tension. Miran stood beside Lura, feeling the weight of all the eyes watching them. This moment was more than a decision. It was the future of two worlds. The elders had spoken, and a new path was chosen. They accepted Miran not just as a guest, but as a bridge between humans and Verini. Lura reached out and gently took Miran's hand. For the first time, their fingers intertwined naturally, without hesitation. "We have crossed the first step," she said softly. "Now, the real journey begins." The days that followed were filled with celebration. The people of Varian opened their hearts slowly but surely. Miran taught them about human laughter, songs, and simple joys. In return, the Verini shared their wisdom, their deep respect for life, and their peaceful ways. Miran found himself learning new things every day: how to listen with patience, how to speak with care, and how to find balance between feeling and calm. Lura watched him with quiet pride. He was no longer just a visitor, he was becoming part of her world. One evening, as the twin suns set and painted the sky with colors of orange and violet, Miran and Lura stood on the sky platform again. The air was cool, and the stars were beginning to shine. Miran looked at Lura and said, "I never thought I'd find a new home so far from Earth." Lura smiled. "You brought life back to my people. You reminded us what it means to feel." He took a deep breath, "And you showed me what peace truly is." They stood together in silence, feeling the gentle wind and the quiet song of the world. But the galaxy was not quiet. The Drowlin, watching from their dark ships, grew more restless. They feared the new bond between humans and Virini would threaten their plans of control and fear. One day, a warning came to Virini: a fleet of Drowlin ships was approaching. Panic rose in the cities and towns. Miran and Lura stood before the council again. "We must prepare," said Cyril. "But we cannot fight with weapons alone." Lura nodded. "We will meet them with truth and trust." Miran's heart beat fast, but he was ready when the Drowlin fleet arrived. Their ships blocked out the suns, casting long shadows over the planet, but instead of weapons, Lura sent out a message: "We come in peace. We seek friendship, not war." The Drowlin captain responded, cold and sharp: "Peace is weakness. You will surrender or be destroyed." Miran stepped forward. "We choose trust over fear. We offer a chance for peace for a moment." Silence. Then, something unexpected. The Drowlin captain paused. A long time passed before the reply came: "We will consider your offer." The Drowlin ships retreated. The people of Virini cheered. They had faced darkness with light. Miran turned to Lura. "We did it," she smiled. "Together." Months passed, and the bond between humans and Virini grew stronger. The Council of Worlds recognized the new friendship as a model for peace across the galaxy. Miran sent messages back to Earth, telling stories of wonder and hope. On Virini, children played in the gardens, laughing freely. Lura and Miran walked the floating islands, dreaming of futures yet to come. One day, Miran looked at Lura and said, "Thank you for choosing me." She took his hand and said, "Thank you for reminding me how to feel." Together, they watched the sun set, knowing their journey was just beginning, a journey of trust, hope, and the power of connection.